Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host, and I'm really excited for the guests that we have today. I got to take an intro class with Dr. Anthony Mattis a few years ago, and he covers a topic that is maybe a little taboo in many circles, but I'm guessing that a lot of you listening are going to be really excited by this topic, so hang tight, we'll be right back. It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. Okay, Dr. Anthony Mattis has been using the tools of Access Consciousness for the past 8 years, and they have basically changed every area of his life. When he came to Access, his wife of 10 years had recently passed away, and he was raising 3 small children on his own. He was on his knees looking for answers. After studying every modality under the sun, he was so disenfranchised from the lack of success he garnered from the other modalities that he was very apprehensive about the tools of Access Consciousness. But he started using them and got so much change despite his resistance that he couldn't deny their power. 8 years later, he travels the world empowering people to know that they know. He invites you on this journey with him to a greater possibility and a greater world. What if you are the gift and the change the world requires? Welcome, Anthony.
Well, thanks for having me, Molly.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you here. So that bio sort of shared a little bit about your journey to Access. I'd love to just start by asking you how you would define Access Consciousness, because I've had a few other facilitators that always mention a little differently.
Yeah, well, basically it's a set of weird, wild, and wacky set of tools that are very, very pragmatic, and they're really just there to add to your life, not to really replace anything else in your life, and but to really just provide you with a set of tools to create the life that you desire. But what I found them to be, they're way more than tools. Because I was always a seeker. Being a holistic chiropractor. And before that, I was a personal trainer and stuff. So I was always, into the body, but I was always more of a body, mind, soul kind of guy,
Mm-hmm.
And, and I always wanted to go as a chiropractor. I always wanted to know what the root cause was, like, besides misalignments in the spine causing these health conditions. Like, okay, what caused these misalignments besides like physical trauma? We know that there's mental stress, most emotional stress, abuse, people that are frustrated with their jobs. They're not utilizing their gifts and capacities, and these things cause dis-ease in the body. So I was just always a seeker, not only from my profession, but even on a spiritual level. I mean, I've been all over God's creation, literally just seeking consciousness in all forms, from metaphysical stuff that I studied. And I don't want to mention any names of particular modalities because I don't want to throw them under the bus. They just didn't really work for me. And I went all the way with these things. I became like a master. I got my master certification in these things, but I had nothing to show for it. It's like, my wife at the time still took her life. It's like when the shit hit the fan and you needed these tools to really work when it mattered, they didn't. And even traditional medicine didn't work. In fact, and this is not to be offensive to people in the allopathic world at all, but it was like, at least the doctors that we were dealing with at the time when she was having her bipolar episode, to me it was a joke. I mean, it was, I just couldn't believe like the way that they tried to help her, and none of the medicines even worked or even got her stabilized. So, but at the end it was her choice, and there is nobody to blame. It was a choice that she made from a really dark place and space. And I love the conversation we're about to have with, talking to the entities, so to speak, because now knowing what I know, I now can relate to a lot of what she was going through that she wasn't really able to get to in psychotherapy. And God knows modern medicine doesn't get to those places and spaces. So that's another weird and wild, wacky set of tools, the whole talk to the entity conversation. But so many people that do suffer from, diagnosed mental illness, they tend to have this this sort of like extra sense with regards to the spirit world.
Mm.
And the talk to the entities tools are really just designed to create ease in that area so that you actually not only have communion with the physical things of our world, but also the non-physical things as well. And so that was a gift. And it was something that I personally resisted because I didn't think I had a capacity in that area. So I just thought it was for those special few people who see ghosts and hear ghosts. I used to pay. I was always open-minded enough to go to those people and pay them money to tell me. But when I thought about taking the classes for myself and to empower me, I really didn't think it was for me. And by the time I got to that stage of access, I was really just fed up because I was really let down by all the other techniques and modalities. And so we went from metaphysics to, we had a guru for 2 years who gave us our own special secret mantra that we couldn't even tell our lovers. It was like our own mantra that only the people in the one room got. So I did my shunyas and my pranayams, and my wife at the time she was a yoga instructor. I mean, we did everything. And then we did non-denominational Christianity. She even did the 12 steps of AA because alcoholism was something that she had to deal with. And AA kind of transformed her life in a lot of ways. And so, God, I could talk about so much of our seeking and all the different influences that really poisoned the well in her growth and her ability to heal. And like I said, I'm not going to blame the church. I'm not going to blame the guru. I'm not going to, but when we needed those things to really work, it was really like, not only did they not work, they actually made things worse. And I'm talking from Christianity, the church, the guru, and even metaphysics. And so when access consciousness came along, I was very reluctant because I'm like, here we go, another modality. But something that just really piqued my interest was that there's so many hands-on tools and therapies in access consciousness, like access the bars, where you deal with these 32 points on your head that carry the electromagnetic components of all your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. And I remember about 9 months before I learned about access or the bars, I remember saying to myself, I'm like having a conversation with God, literally. And I'm like, man, for someone who studied all these different healing techniques and all these different spiritual practices, I really don't have anything to show for it. I could have a good conversation with y'all, but like nowhere in my life was I bearing the fruits. It's like I had a wife who lost all hope, so she took herself out. And aside from that particular tragedy, I had to like sort of like put things in boxes at that time and like, okay, am I actually satisfied with myself as a healer, with the success of my practice, with where I am as a father and what I've accomplished so far? And I was like, no, my life kind of sucks. This sucks. And then you add on top of the grieving of your best friend, right? And I'm like, I have nothing to show for it. So I remember saying, I really was talking to God at this point. I'm like, I'm going to have to go outside the box again because, and if I end up going to hell for it, so be it. I'll have a lot of friends there, but I've done everything that I know that was available. And I mean, I did breath work. I mean, the list is like 100 like items down. So I don't want to get into all the other stuff, but I was like, wherever I'm stuck, wherever I'm locked up, it's beyond the subconscious and definitely the conscious mind. I mean, therapists loved me because I was like an open book. As you can see, I can't stop talking. I'm like, long answer to your question. But they loved me. So I was always an open book. I didn't have any skeletons in the closet. I'm like, here's all my skeletons. Can you please give me tools to create my life, And so I remember saying to God, I'm like, wherever I'm screwed up is way beyond the subconscious mind. So it's got to be something like energetic that's like way out here or something. I don't know. And I didn't even know what I was talking about. I just blurted that out. So then 9 months later, this thing called Access Bars comes up, and that's exactly sort of what their selling point, so to speak, was. It's like, if you're stuck, if you have limitations, a lot of them are beyond your cognitive understanding. A lot of them are way beyond even the subconscious mind. They're like, and the tools have this way of getting to those places where you're locked up that may not even be of this reality. And I know that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go again. And the whole time my mind is like, no, 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 no. But something kept making me curious. And the thing that made me super curious was the co-creator, Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness. And then there was Dr. Dane here, who also happened to be a chiropractor, who was also suicidal. and he actually planned the date of his suicide. And he read a little tiny article about, I don't know, 2 by 2 or 4 by 4. I don't know how big it was, tiny. But he saw it and he's like, it said, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. And he got angry and he crumpled up the paper and he threw it over there because he also sort of had the same journey and following all these things. But he was the one who was going to kill himself. So I was too chicken shit to kill myself, and I was a dad too. And I'm like, we're going to beat this thing and we're going to have an amazing life. But it's like, but my life sucks. So maybe I may be a lost cause, but maybe I can find something that at least can change this generational sickness from being passed down to the children. And so lo and behold, Access Consciousness comes along and they talk about all these different things. I threw the kids in the car. We drove 5 hours. We were the only ones who showed up to the class. And at first I was like, man, it's relaxing, But really what kept me going back was the boys were 11 and 9 and my daughter was 3 at the time. And my one son, who's so hyper, by time 20 minutes into the bars, by time they got to the area on the head called kindness, gratitude, peace, and calm, it was like he was sedated. And I'm like, you know what? That's worth his price of admission because he was so hyper. My older son, it would knock him out within 5 minutes, he was snoring. And I'm like, if it creates ease for these guys and joy and laughter, I'm just going to keep coming back. And it wasn't until like my 3rd bars class where my whole life, like I thought I was going to vomit. Mm-hmm. And the next day I woke up and I had all this joy, like someone gave me a happy pill. Mm-hmm. And then I knew, I was like, okay, there's something to this work that's different than any other modality I'd ever done. And that was 9 years ago. And here I am. I closed my chiropractic practice down. I facilitate the tools of Access Consciousness all over the world. And I see miracles. I see things that none of the other modalities could get to. I see things that are permanent. I've seen people get off of their antidepressants, anti-anxieties, people's pains. So on and so forth, and it's just beautiful. And we use that as a family. Now the kids are 20, 18, and my daughter's going to be 13 soon. It's like they come home from school, or when my older son visits me from the military, he's like, Dad, can you run my bars? Because they know the value of it. So sorry for the long-winded response, but that was sort of like our journey,
Yeah. And I think besides the fact of my entire reality shifting every time I started getting my bars run in every class that I've shown up to of Access, the thing that convinced me the most at first was, after being a seeker my whole life and of trying so many different modalities and getting certified in different things, watching other people, not people who are trying to sell Access, but everyone who I had come across who knew about it, how they had said it changed our life more than any other tool ever has and faster than any other tool ever could. That was when I started listening of like, oh wait, like maybe this is for me. Maybe I need to actually like get the money together and invest in that first bars class. And thank God I did, because my entire financial reality and rest of my reality changed because of that. But thank you for sharing that much of your story. And I think it's really beautiful how synchronistically this comes about. I want to just point that out to anyone who's listening. If this is the first you're ever hearing of Access Consciousness, this is your wake up call message to go and geek out on this and check it out and see if it's for you, because man, do these tools work, and do they work fast, and do they work potently, especially if you want to try being happy in your life versus just like suffering forever. It's an option. But let's bring it to the talk to the entity stuff, because you brought it up. I was burying the lead, but it's up now, so we've got to talk about it. First off, people are afraid of ghosts. People are afraid of thinking about energies that are outside of the physical reality. So will you just like tell us what an entity is and how to think about that?
Well, you and I are entities. We just have bodies,
right?
It's like, so it's basically, it's an energy, either formed or defined or not defined. A book's an entity, a song's an entity, your house is an entity. I mean, everything has consciousness to it. Everything, whether it's in physical form or non-physical form. Okay. So, but the entities that we're specifically talking about are people like you and I that no longer have bodies anymore. And other kinds of entities, there's all sorts of different types of beings, and also talk about the beings of light, your teammates, as some people would call your guardian angels, so we start to look at, and there's a lot of them, and they're around us, whether you see them or hear them or not. doesn't matter. We all have the ability to perceive, know, be, and receive the spirit world. Now, here's the thing. Because of basically religion, no matter what religion, anytime you go outside that box, especially dealing with the spirit world, uh, is not, it doesn't align and agree with that particular religion, and so therefore it's bad. Okay, so especially in the Christianity realm, or the Catholic realm, so to speak, if it's not in the name of Jesus, then it's not of God. Okay, and that's a lot of people's points of view who are very religious. I can't speak for the other religions, but well, I can a little bit. I mean, even in the Arabic countries, I facilitated classes in Saudi Arabia, and it's like, even when doing the body classes, they were very paranoid about receiving body processes, because they were like, is this going to go against my religion? So no, so fear, number one, is it creates this hesitation to acquire tools to make your life easier, right? And if the tools don't come through your particular religion, then a lot of people don't, they shut the door to it. Okay, which is a shame, because there's a lot of people who are suffering. There are a lot of people who actually can see ghosts, who actually do hear ghosts, but they have no one to talk about it to, because they're afraid that they're going to put them in the hospital, or put them on, psychiatric meds and things of that nature. But these are capacities that these people have. And the gift that talk to the entities is just, again, it's a set of tools to help you to have ease with the spirit world. You don't have to give up your religion. You could still be a Muslim, you could still be a Christian, you could still be a Catholic, you could still, follow the the Judaism religion, and all the different kinds that are within that. And so you don't have to give anything up. But ooh, this thunder. See, we hear from the gods.
Perfect timing.
That was wonderful. So yeah, but like, one of the biggest, so fear is usually the number one thing that shuts people down to this whole conversation. One of the fears is they're afraid they're going to open up this door, or this Pandora box, and they're going to go too far down the path, and they're going to get overwhelmed, or they're going to be attacked by the devil, or the demons are going to come. Yeah. And quite the opposite is true. If it's going to empower you to have ease with people like you and I, who just don't have any two bodies anymore. Some of them don't even know that they've died. And I'll talk about that in a second. Well, let me talk about that real quick, is because we all have this point of view that when people die, if they were good, they automatically go to heaven. Well, what if you take yourself with you wherever you go? So if you weren't a very conscious person when you had a body, what makes you all of a sudden going to have you're going to be super conscious when you don't have a body? What if you're exactly the same? So we have the ability to actually facilitate people who are still stuck here, because they're still waiting for their husband to come back from work, or they're still waiting for their kid to come home from school, because they're sort of stuck in that same pattern that they were in before they lost their body, right? So you can actually help facilitate that. And then you got the demon conversation, because those are real. But it's like, there's ways to get rid of them. There's ways to release them, so you're not at the effect of them anymore, if you want your life to be easier. There's also entities that, let's say, the house that you live in that was built in 1905, they still think it's their home. So that's why they're hanging around haunting the house, because they're like, this is my house, I'm not leaving. And we do have choice when we die. We have choice to stick around. We have choice to go get another body. We have choice to go to the light, or go to a different dimension, or whatever. And so now, I know that blows a lot of people's minds, especially if they're religious. That may not allow. Look, I had a hard time with this stuff too.
Yeah,
I really did. From guru to Christianity to being raised as a sort of a half and half Catholic. We weren't hardcore. My family were not seekers on any level. But, I went through all the traditional Catholic stuff. Mm-hmm. Don't let me get into that. But so people are afraid, and they're afraid they're going to open up this Pandora's box. They're going to go out of line with their particular religion. And even for people who are spiritual and they're not religious, let's say, they're afraid that they're going to become overwhelmed. And what if that was a lie? It's like, are you a finite being, or are you an infinite being? Mm-hmm. Now, if you say infinite being, then can an infinite being ever truly be overwhelmed? No, exactly. But if you have the point of view that when someone crosses over, or that they're more powerful than you, or the spirits are more powerful than you, or the demons are more powerful than you, well, then, yeah, your point of view will create your reality. And I watched that with my late wife. I watched that happen. When I was asking her, why are you trying to kill yourself? She's like, I saw a demon. And I'm like, well, and at the time I didn't believe her. Well, I was like, okay, where? Running around the house? And she's like, no, the demon's inside of me. And my first response at the time, and we're having this conversation on the top of the roof in the psychiatric ward in the hospital, and there's a caged fence in so nobody jumps off. But it was so surreal for me. Here's this beautiful 30-year-old woman, super intelligent, highly creative. We used to have beautiful, deep conversations. She was practically catatonic. I'm like, why are you doing this? Your mother did this 8 years prior. And she's like, I saw a demon. And I'm like, okay, where? Running around the house? I'm like, no big deal. We'll just cast it out. And she's like, no, it's inside of me. Now, I didn't have access consciousness at the time. We were Christian. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, that's bullshit. I said, we were like hardcore Christians too. We were like Monday through Sunday, not just on Sundays. She was on the praise and worship team. We went to church all throughout the week. We were hard. We spoke in tongues. Well, we did it all. We laid our hands on people in the streets and prayed for their healing. If we saw them limping or whatever, I mean, we were like crazy. We went all, whatever we did, we went all out. And I said, well, I go, you're supposed to have the blood of Christ on you. That's what the Bible says. How can a demon get inside? We're doing everything we're supposed to do. I said, what's the point of being a Christian? Let's make up our own freaking religion, because they're all bullshit. I was so angry. And she's like, no, let's not do that. And it was so cute. But yeah, she's like, I saw a demon. Now knowing what I know, she was right.
But now knowing what you know, you would have had exactly the things to say to cast that out. You
Well,
wouldn't have the fear of the judgment.
It wasn't about just saying. What it was about empowering. The tools empower you so that you can be the bigger entity in the situation.
Yeah.
But she had a point of view that this demon or demons were more powerful than her. And then she lost hope, because us being Christians, that was sort of like our last spiritual pit stop, right? Because we had done everything else before. It's weird. Most people are like Christian or Catholic, and then they go the other way, right? We did the other things, and then we became Christian. It was so weird. We were like opposite. But and yeah, and so she lost hope because Jesus can't help her. She might as well throw in the towel. And yeah, so it was really a bummer. And then it took me a long time to receive the talk to the entities tools. I mean, I went to my first class, and I was in the back. I was like a grumpy old man. I'm like, bullshit.
A lot of people in those classes are, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Not ready to receive it until it pops.
I couldn't receive it. Now I'm a facilitator of it, which is a miracle in of itself. And the tools do exactly what they say they will do, which is to empower you to know what you know and have ease, if that's what you desire.
Right. Some people choose the suffering and the struggle. I want to highlight a couple of things you said in there, though, because I think they're really important. And one is that we're taught through many parts of this reality, especially if you're raised religious or anything, we're taught to fear the idea of ghosts or the idea of entities or the idea of disembodied spirits and energies. And to fear it is to like separate from it and to assume that it's other, and other is bad and wrong and should be feared.
And then you need this to protect you from it.
Right. And that there needs to be separation in order to be safe. And there's also the projection that only special people, if you do believe in entities, that only certain mediums or psychics or people with the sight have the capacity to communicate and to connect with those other entities. And the truth is, what you're saying, number one, for everyone to hear, is that these things are not to be feared, that you are the infinite being, you are the dominant energy in your body, in your space. And as long as you acknowledge that, that is what's true. And also that you don't have to be special, that you are the same as those things, and thus you can in some way connect and communicate with them. And as long as you aren't separating, I want to highlight, there's so much to receive by being in the conversation of talking to the entities in your life. Because not only could you facilitate them, a lot of them are there to contribute to you. And by pretending they're not there, you're closing the door to that receiving. Just like pretending access won't work, you're closing the door to that possibility in your life.
Yeah, I didn't even want to bring up that piece because that's another added like receive from entities.
Yeah, what if they want to bring you all the money and sex and ease and joy and glory that you want?
Yeah, well, but I know, but it's like, goodness gracious. I mean, that's really taboo. That's a whole nother conversation. But I'm glad you brought that up because there are ones who do desire to contribute to you.
Yeah.
And who knows why, but it could be other lifetimes. It could be oaths and vows that they made with you in other lifetimes, and they're not going to leave you alone until that exchange occurs. And here's the beautiful part about it. A lot of the stuff that we may have going on in our bodies, like sicknesses, pains, or mental stuff, could be because of our unwillingness to acknowledge their presence, because that's the way our body's giving us information that they're actually around. And that's where that magical question, that one of the first things you learn to ask in access consciousness is, who does this belong to? For every thought, feeling, and emotion you have, and even pain in your body. So
and
that's a whole nother
yours,
topic.
Give it back. Return to center consciousness. You don't have to know whose it is to send it back. Yeah.
Yeah. Or sometimes you do have to have a conversation with some of these beings, right? Just sending it back is not enough. And that took me about 5 years of being involved in access for me to actually start receiving it. And then it started clicking, because there was things I wasn't able to change in my body and in my mind. I was getting like really depressed, but this time I had no logical reason to be depressed. Before, like, it was obvious. My wife killed herself. I was always struggling financially. I had like outside reasons to be a sad guy. This time I'm like, no, my life is like becoming great, and was great, and is great. And why am I feeling this like weird dark cloud pulling me down? And what it was entity awareness. So when I actually was willing to have a conversation with them, the next day I woke up and gone.
Yeah.
It was like that heavy cloud was gone.
I'll share my experience too, because I only took the intro of Talk to the Entities. I haven't taken the whole class yet. I was actually raised believing in a lot of that, like energies and other beings around us stuff. And I think, well, to back up for a second, the idea of entities wanting to contribute to us, those of you who believe in guardian angels or spirit guides, that's basically the thing. Those people are there to help facilitate you living the life with ease and with joy and with beauty and glory, hopefully. But my experience of even just taking the intro, I started implementing what you guys call office hours, which is basically having a few moments a couple times a week or once a day where you actually try to communicate with the entities that are around you and facilitate what you can and receive what you can and clear anything that needs to be cleared. And in that process, every time I've done it, my life has gotten better. Like money flows have gotten easier. Relationships and communication have gotten clearer. It's like you said, this cloud of energy that needs to be moved sort of lifts in some way just by doing that. And I am not someone who hears or sees entities. I have to just trust that whatever hit of awareness I'm getting is what's actually going on, and just assume that that's what's happening, and then noticing my life changes. And some weird shit happened of like, I had the experience, I was speaking to a certain friend's grandmother or a certain friend's dead aunt. And then I would call them and be like, listen, I know this sounds weird, but like, this is what happened to me in my meditation today. And like, just so you know, so-and-so says hi. And they're like, oh my God, I've been thinking about them so much. I had the sign of this. They were like with me recently. I'm like, wow, okay, that makes it feel kind of real. Even though I'm just like going with no words and no sight, just these like feelings, and trusting that and getting these types of awareness. So it's kind of miraculous once you start playing with this stuff. You don't have to have any psychic, quote unquote, psychic abilities to actually experience some magical, miraculous stuff once you have the right questions to ask and tools to work through. It's pretty cool.
Bingo. Very cool.
Yeah.
And you've only done an intro, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, I've done a lot of other access classes, but yeah, the intro. I am excited to take the full Talk to the Entities class soon. So we're running out of time on this episode. I want to make sure that people know how to come and find you, because I'm sure people have been inspired by your story. And those of you who are out there who are ready to open up this not Pandora's box, this window into more possibilities in your life, how is the best way for people to get a hold of you?
That was well said. It's at my website is www.dr for DrAnthonyMattis.com. And I have a bunch of classes on there, and you can learn more about the entity stuff there and the body classes and just the tools of access consciousness in general.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
We will put that link in the show notes of this episode. And I like to ask this at the end, are there any like last words of wisdom or key takeaways you want to leave people with?
Well, there's so many, but your number one, your past doesn't have to dictate your future. So no matter what type of trauma and drama that you've been through, it doesn't have to be your reality 5 years from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now. And these tools have a magical way of undoing the energetic occurrences that took place in your past that sort of set your future in motion. It will undo it so that you could actually create a different future and actually have a future that shows up that's sort of like one that you've always dreamt about having, but was never able to actualize it because of all the crap that you've been through. But the tools will get you there. The tools will help create that future that's what you actually desire. So the past doesn't have to dictate your future. That's the biggest thing. And find someone to like, there's this is over in 170 different countries. Find someone to start running your bars. That's the place to start. Get to a bars class, at least go to one class so you can actually do it with your lover, your spouse, whatever, your children. Because to me, it's one of the greatest tools that exists on planet Earth.
Me too. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anthony, for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. And everybody out there, please go to DrAnthonyMattis.com, Mattis, and that link again will be in the show notes for you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode or watching it if you're on YouTube. And we will see you again next week. Whatever happens, keep asking big questions and taking bold action because you are here for a reason. Bye.